And this is when there's drought and, all the civil servants are flying by economy and the ministers are flying by economy, and this guy is saying, okay, if I can't fly in comfort, let me at least live in comfort, that sort of thing. So now this has brought about a certain embarrassment. But even equally interestingly, there was the judges case, and judges in India, as you probably know, are holy cows, and nobody can touch them. And somebody filed an RTI and asked that I want to know how much Supreme Court judges have spent in the last 2-3 years on their travel abroad. And absolutely outrageous stories came. One Chief Justice traveled from Delhi to South Africa to attend a government meeting via the United States of America in first class and spent 4.5 lakhs extra on that trip. Now, I am told by the officials in the law ministry that after this news broke, the expenditure on judges' international travel has gone down significantly because they've become very careful. And I had a very interesting personal experience where I was coming back from the US some months back, and I was traveling by business class, but I was upgraded for some reason. I walked into the first class and I saw a judge sitting there whom I happened to know, so I went and wished him. And the moment he saw me, he got all flustered and got up and said, look, the government is not paying for this ticket. I said, I never asked you. He said, no, I know you people. Tomorrow you'll have it out in the newspapers, so I'm just making it very clear. So the consciousness has come. There are many other cases like this. It's exposing misuse of power and influence. One of the most famous cases is of the minister in Maharashtra who was convicted by the Supreme Court for 1 month's imprisonment for contempt of court. He was the forest minister. And as apparently happens with a lot of VIPs, he got a medical certificate on the first day of his imprisonment and shifted into a nursing home and spent 30 days in the nursing home, and the last day came back, checked into the jail and checked out. Everything would have gone normally. Somebody filed an RTI application and said we want to have his medical records, and when the medical records were produced, there was hell to kill for VIPs to get doctors in Maharashtra to give them false certificates because they're going to get exposed. So, this is, and I'm only giving you one case study of accessing justice. I mean, I'm hoping that people here don't have that sort of problem. It will be a sad day when people belonging to the upper crust of society have these sorts of problems. But if you're a common person and you try and register a case with the police, you have a tough time. And I was told this story by the Chief Information Commissioner of Punjab, and it was a heartwarming story where an 11-year-old boy's cycle got stolen. So he went to the police station because his brother said, let's go. And the police refused to, file an FIR, as happens very often. Said, we have important things to do, don't trouble us with a, little bicycle. Well, he got, his elder brother got in touch with some NGOs and they filed an RTI application. Why is my FIR not being filed? How will I get my bicycle back if it's not being filed, etc., etc. And finally, the police turned up 2 days after he filed the thing with 6 brand new bicycles and said, please pick the one you want. Now, this was another sort of use. Accessing entitlements, I won't go into it, but you all know how the Right to Information Act has been used for the public distribution system. And Satak Nagrik Sangathan was, I think, the first group in Delhi to actually have public hearings where they exposed the misdeeds of the ration card system in Delhi by using the right to information. This has happened in Rajasthan, in Chhattisgarh, in Andhra Pradesh, all over. Similarly, of the NREGA, I mean, I'm not saying that it has saved the NREGA, but certainly when you hope for saving the NREGA, it is the social audits and the RTI system that has got linked to it. Redressing grievances, and this is again, and I'm making this case because it links up, and I try and do that with some of the questions we're talking about. The well-known case of an old lady who wanted a passport, and she applied for one, but every time she go to the passport office, they tell her she's not going to get the passport. Finally, she came to somebody who advised her to file an RTI. So she went to file her RTI, went to the clerk, gave him the RTI, gave him a 10 rupee fees for the right to information application. The clerk looked at her RTI, said, wait a minute, went in, got her passport and gave it to her. Now, this is the grievance redressal power that the RTI has had, where people don't want to get engaged with this. And various other such things. Now, the question that still remains, and I remember Yamini Mishra had organized a meeting some time back where we had a lot of people from the left who, in fact, pointedly asked this question: how does it change society if a little boy gets his bicycle back? And I thought that that is an important question. And that's the sort of question we are asking again. And so the issue is this, that okay, there are these individual impacts, but are they really changing the system? In fact, there is a major fear out here. And the fear is what one would like to call the RTI divide. Is actually the system responding negatively? Is it saying, are officials saying among themselves, look, this RTI is a big nuisance, so let's make sure that anybody who files the RTI gets quickly relief in whatever his or her problem is, and don't worry about the rest. So you're now having a situation, is this true that you're having a situation where the limited resources of an institution are getting further focused on those of us who have the ability, which usually by definition would be the better off or more educated or more empowered, to file RTIs, thereby making the rest of the population even more worse off because they are not able to file RTIs, so whatever little they got through the usual trickle down doesn't come to them. Is this what is happening? Or are there actually changes going on in the institutions which are going to ensure that everybody tends to get better off? Here's where I think the work that Anjali and Amrita and the SNS are doing becomes Right to Information Act. But the sort of work they're doing actually looks at it in the other way. What they did, among many other things, was that they started asking of members of the Legislative Assembly in Delhi and municipal councillors fundamental questions of how they perform their duties. So they didn't go to the individual saying that did this MLA solve your problem. They went to the MLA and asked some fundamental questions like, for example, how do you spend the money that you get for your local area development? And not just in terms of how you spend or what you spent it on, but what is the basis on which you make these decisions? And very interesting issues came up where, for example, you have one locality where, which is the major problem if you talk to the people is that there is no water. And what did the MLA spend his 1 crore or 2 crores on? To build a huge fountain in the middle of the square. So now, then people ask the MLA, what basis did you make this decision to spend it on this fountain? So the first thing that they started asking was the basis on which the MLA was making his or her decision. The second set of questions that were asked was what were the decisions they were making. So they had a certain listing that these are the sorts of priorities. What is the first set of priorities among the community, second, third, fourth, fifth. Now match it with what people have spent their money on. Is there a match or is there not a match? So even if the person is not being participatory in decision making, is he or she coming to the right sort of decision? Are their decisions reflecting the reality of what is happening there? So that became the second sort of thing. Third sort of thing was what your function. How often are you going to the assembly? How many sessions have you attended? How many questions have you asked? How many committees are you on? Do you even know which committees you are on? Have you attended any, for example, there is a committee which I didn't know about till their work came up, which is supposed to be a jail welfare committee. So if you go into jail, somebody is made sure that you're not